This, man.
All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome to today's very special AI Toolkit webinar, joined by Misha and Derrick. How are you, gentlemen?
Oh, living the dream.
Like you just said, we're all running AI businesses, and yet sometimes the tech challenges, right? Which is all the way, always the way. We're not excluded from things not working as well as they are expected to. So, hey, look, good morning, everyone, again. Really delighted to have you all here as part of the Toolkit webinar program. We like to mix it up. Sometimes you're going to get me, sometimes you're going to get Ben Walker or other people on our team, and then from time to time you're going to have some special guests like Misha and Derrick from AuraScope. So today, we really want to have a good discussion about how your business shows up in AI search results, because it's not the same as SEO, as search engines, right? As we'll dive into this, because search engines run in a completely different model to the way that AI tools do. And there are some commonalities, but there's a mindset and an approach, and AuraScope have developed a product here in Auckland to help simplify this for us all. So we're going to get into it. We've got our chat thread as per usual running. If you have any questions along the way. First, can we get some intros from you guys? So, Derrick, tell us a little bit about who Derrick is and what you guys do broader than what AuraScope is, the Harnix.
Yeah, you've introduced us perfectly, Justin. I actually had a slide ready for this, so I think I might jump to that before. Oh yeah, this. So why listen to us? How does that sound?
Go for it.
Cool. So hey everyone, my name is Derrick. I'm one of the co-founders of Harnix AI, and we're building AuraScope. But who am I? I'm an AI nerd. I love technology down to the core. I studied deep learning, software engineering. My last gig was at Air New Zealand before I co-founded Harnix with Misha. And we've had such an amazing opportunity over the last year consulting a bunch of New Zealand businesses on real technical capability building, automation, and what's known as agentic engineering. It's not the same as vibe coding. It's a methodical process of good production software engineering with agents. So and we're using that methodology to build AuraScope. So, but we're super passionate about the space. I'll pass it over to Misha, and he can introduce himself.
Thanks, Derrick. I'm Misha. So I'm not such a great tech nerd as Derrick. I'm more like exploratory guy, right? So my background predominantly lies in product business analysis, so really trying to weed out the problems, see how we can solve it, and the impact it's going to have, right? And this is why I'm super passionate about this space, and actually just in general, AI, because it's such a massive shift. It's like it's a fundamental different way of thinking of how we go about these things, right? There's some contradictions saying oh, AI will take your job, but honestly, the way I see it is AI gives you more opportunities and gives you more work. I'm really keen to debate on it later, but super passionate about the space. Worked with Derrick in New Zealand before, and thanks for having us here, Justin.
You're welcome. So most people in New Zealand, perhaps bounce out of your screen share for a second. Most people in New Zealand are using AI tools as a search replacement, right? It's making discoverability much, much easier, much faster. It's enriching all of that for all of us, right? So, we're now using these AI models, these platforms to help us find out what services or support or information exists to help us solve a particular problem, maybe even to help us choose or go through that selection process for which physio is the best for me, which category has the best reviews or something like that, right? And so there's all of these kind of queries that are coming up now. With search engine optimization with Google, you can pay to play, right? So you can kind of pay to have your listing boosted in those ranks, in a kind of a bidding war for everyone else that's trying to get higher up the rank to you, right? So that's kind of generally how it works out. Now, there's a recommendation engine that they've got that Google and these search engines have developed, which is going to be surfacing up sites that it thinks are relevant to you based on your query and based on what other people might have liked or accessed. There'll be a whole lot of other data signals in there, right? But of course, with these AI models, they don't work like that. In that sense, so how you show up at the moment is not influenced by how big your budget is. It's actually influenced by how useful, relevant your content is to answer that person's query. Am I right?
100%.
Right. So that changes the way that we think about how we orchestrate our content. Now, 2 or 3 years ago, bots on your site would be a pain in the ass, right? Everyone would hate the bots running around trying to do things. Now, bots are your customers. Now, bots are the AI tools that are acting for your customers to try and find out this information, which probably could do with another webinar on what's the future of a company website, because if most of your traffic is coming from bots, does it really need to be as flashy and pretty as what you've got right now? Maybe not. Maybe it's just a library of text files or documents instead. So we could explore that at another time. But so, what are the main challenges that you hear from companies trying to improve the way that they are discoverable through AI?
Yeah, 100%. Probably something I'd like to point out is, just what's the bigger impact, on globally. So one thing that you may have heard about, Justin, is zero click-through rate, right? Essentially, zero click-through rate is something that happens when a customer gets to see an AI overview, like a response from like Google, and choosing not to click on any of the blue links, right? Like we're seeing a massive growth, in it, right? So September last year, we're looking at about 60%, and it's sitting at about 72% of zero click-through at the moment. What that means is pretty much like 7 out of 10 queries don't, 7 out of 10 people, they just don't click on any of the blue links that show up. Now, what that essentially means is the organic traffic is getting cannibalized, right? So before you had like billions and billions of queries, and now all of a sudden it's slowly shrinking, right?
What does it mean that people open a new tab and Google that business?
Yeah, so I actually have a slide for this question. I'm sharing it right now. Hopefully you can see.
Yep.
Like Google, you type in something like best AI consultancies in New Zealand.
See, why am I not listed there?
You're all the way down the bottom under other notable firms. And this is the prime example, Justin, of you being one of the best SEO optimized websites we've seen in recent times. But that doesn't necessarily mean you are AI search visible. And there's a lot of others that are coming up and dominating either what's known as their mention or share of voice. And this is the new internet, by the way, team. Like anyone that you're viewing, the click-through rate, the zero click rate is 80%, or reaching that at 72, but it's 80%, meaning people get their answer from this and they don't click any links. And that is the future. And if you actually move into ChatGPT, does the same thing. You ask a question, and it'll tell you, hey, Derrick, like it understands my personal context, right? Derrick, here's the best, and it'll give you a bunch of answers.
So people can learn everything that they need to about your business and your products or services without ever visiting your website.
Correct.
That is correct.
And so that must be incredibly, I mean, as a marketer, that would drive you batty, right? Like you've got people who are in active consideration for your product, and they're just dark. You just have no idea.
Yep, that's right.
This is a massive problem. Since our launch, Justin, we've had many conversations, and this is the biggest ones. AI misrepresents my brand. AI does not cite my brand. AI does not mention my brand. And AI recommends my competitors. You just showed your audience right there. Why am I not there? Why are there a bunch of competitors in the answer? That's the exact feeling with AI search. And I'd love to talk about the metrics, right? Because what does this mean? There's actual revenue loss at stake here, right? Like Misha was talking about 70% zero click through, but you see more and more people just adopting AI. With the click through rate drops, your organic revenue drops, and people are losing revenue because of this. Like marketing agencies that don't adopt AI search or downplay it are doing a disservice to their customers, in our personal opinion. Because if you don't show up in the AI answer, you are disintermediated. What that means is you become invisible. It's not even you exist, it's you don't exist.
Right. So then, and from the perspective of a prospect or a customer, you're irrelevant because you're not even in the mix, right? So your business it's actually the competing for relevance in the market, right? So if you show up every time, you're irrelevant in my consideration. Otherwise, we don't even know about you.
Exactly. And it's actually quite interesting, to also think about the fact that why people would use AI search. We actually get a question like, well, how do I know that my customers, are coming through the ChatGPT or my customers are still using the traditional Google search? As a matter of fact, that's actually not necessarily true. The customers are just like, what we've discovered is they're just not finding it in ChatGPT. But the thing is, we're all, like any business owner, any senior, anybody who's trying to grow their organization and help their customers, their time pool, right? So what we find from the behavioral shift, everybody is slowly shifting to the AI search in order to save on their time, right? And that's actually quite an interesting phenomenon that we're observing, right? Don't get me wrong, great SEO from the beginning will mean potentially good AEO. But as things slowly move and people adapt to these new techniques, new ways of doing things, this will quickly shift. So that's why we find that those who jump on this earlier are reaping the benefits already, right? Because the competition is low at the moment when it comes to the citations and mentions.
Yeah, actually, this is a perfect segue. I think I've designed these these slides perfectly for the natural form of this conversation. But this is the ChatGPT released the largest study. They're the only ones with prompt data. So any platform or tool that claims that they have ChatGPT prompt volume are lying to you, and we can talk about that later. But you can only get this information from the model provider. So OpenAI, with the biggest ever search query AI search volume, have given us this exact massive breakdown in how people use their services. And there's a massive pillar just on finding information, which is search, and purchasing products, right? But even much greater than all of the other use cases that you see here. And this is also added with further research from Anthropic, which is Claude Code and all of the other, massive things that you're hearing in the AI space. They released their study that confirms exactly this thinking. So it's a massive opportunity for businesses. This is the market share we see. ChatGPT, number one in AI search, just because they're A lot of people just think ChatGPT is synonymous with AI,
Well,
right?
no, it's the market, right? So
Yeah,
Exactly.
But you and I know, Justin, Misha and I know that there's better AI tools out there. Arguably, Perplexity and Claude
the
are better
Perplexity
AI.
fan club right here.
I'm the same. I think
We're actually going to run a big session on Perplexity computer, which is kind of like, if you heard of Claude co-work and building skills and things like that. Perplexity just launched computer, which I've been playing around with this morning. So we're going to be doing next week's AI toolkit on all of that kind of stuff, right? Okay, I hope that your next slide is what has been the impact on Google's share of search?
Oh, let me see if I've designed it. Okay, so it's kind of adjacent. Like what I think this slide, what it's showing is each AI chatbot is indexing their own version of the internet. So you know how you perfectly put it in the beginning, Justin? The Google methodology does not work anymore. Yeah, because Google is not the only player. OpenAI are indexing their entire internet. They originally did it with Bing, but then now created their own OAI search bot. And if you actually see, we talk to customers that show us their bot traffic. There's OpenAI traffic hitting them more than Google. And then you got Perplexity that are running their own rolling index, which we believe is very strong and we love. But then Gemini is using their own infrastructure. And I want to point this thing out because this got released only last week. Google have filed a patent to now produce AI-generated content tailored to specific users. So they're literally telling you right now that they're going to end what it means to be a website. They're going to end all of marketing agencies building their own JavaScript, beautiful, human-readable websites. Because if you aren't AI readable, they'll generate that dynamic page for you. And this is a patent that they've filed just in recent times. So
holy moly,
this landscape is changing, Justin, beyond our eyes.
We need to talk about that. So if it can't find something, if you don't have a page that provides the content or the context required by the user, it's going to generate it for you.
Yeah. Google have mastered the model of fast, cheap AI. They own the entire stack, from the data to the training to the building of these things. So they can do this.
Well, that's arguably why so many people think Google's going to win the AI wars, right? Because of that legacy.
Exactly.
Misha and I have had a bet since we started Harnix. Is Google going to win? And I've been telling him, no, Google's going to lose. And he's very much on, no, Google's going to win. Just give us some time. Isn't that right, Misha?
That's true. And to be honest, for the first couple of years since the GPT launch, I thought, well, come on, bring something up. And it's not until later when they brought out NotebookLM, which was arguably the best application of the year, right?
Oh, it's still incredible. I mean, it blows my mind every time I use it. And so many people are just every client I get in front talk about something incredible that they're doing with Google Notebook, with Notebook LM, that just wasn't possible a few months ago.
Exactly.
Okay, so team, look, you guys keep going and get us into, keep going. What's
Justin, this is you're as much of an expert as us, so please collaborate in this conversation, mate. The way that we see solving this problem is, the new metrics are now, you really need to understand, are you being mentioned, right? And that is your pure visibility. Are you even in the answer, right? And so you can do this manually. You can go and spend a lot of your precious time going into ChatGPT, just like I did, going into overview and typing in these queries and seeing for yourself, are you showing up or not, right? And that's a good start. But it's going to get very tedious and boring, right? And there's other metrics that you're missing out of this. Are you constantly defining also who are your competitors? Because AI is going to very is going to be non-biased in the way that it tries to be the best information answerer, right? So it's going to be like, it's not going to say New Zealand AI is the only and greatest and best AI consultancy in the world. Of course, like you're strong, but you have other competitors that will show up in the answer, right? Citations. Now AI uses its, think of it as its lifeblood. It goes and does web searches, and we saw based on different AI models, it'll use its own version of the web search and its index to get that information. So are you being cited? And to the point earlier, we've had so many conversations, Misha and I, where people find out that they have bad sentiment. AI has misrepresented their brand. They have bad pricing or some sort of like old information that is now changed based on their new strategy, and it's pulling that information as their only and greatest source of truth. And that is bad sentiment on your brand, right? And so these are things that need to really be focused on, right?
There's one question I keep coming up with here is with SEO, you can find out what people are searching for when they come across your website.
Correct.
Right? Now, can you find out what the question that people were asking when you appeared in the search results in AI tools?
And
I
yes,
love that.
kind of yes and no. So there are quick hacks. Well, the short answer is no. But the thing is, like, what you can do, for those who are interested, in Google Search Console, you can always search for queries that are of long tail nature, right? So 60 or more characters, and take a look at what the customers actually typed into the Google search. But that's only limited to Google. Derek will now talk about the prompt volume. So Derek, yeah, go for it, man. It's a fascinating.
Yeah. No, Misha, you're bang on it, man. Like you can, and the old SEO ways are marketers they love their numbers, right? And they have all of the numbers for SEO because it's a deterministic system. It's an algorithm that you can rank for. You pay for a keyword and you show up either in one of the 10 blue links. That was the whole monetization model of SEO. AEO is different because it's prompts, there's personalization, there's so much to it. And to my point earlier, there's no way that ChatGPT, Perplexity, or Gemini are exposing their prompt logs to any third party. And if there's only two things happening, Justin. They're doing corporate espionage, which is illegal, or they're in bed with Sam Altman and dinner tables, right? This is not us. So we have to really be very careful with this metric. We can understand that a keyword search can potentially be made long tail. Like you can add more that makes it look like a prompt. And then it's only a guess at that point based on search volume. And then there's other worser methods that we see in industry, even from the great top players of AEO, that say that clickstream data. So if you have a browser extension that records your clickstream data, that is what, and people sign up to that, then they can record your prompts externally from ChatGPT. That's only 1% of desktop users that do that. And 80% of AI search happens in a mobile phone. So the metric is completely skewed. In its current state, the only way that we see this working effectively is if you, the customer, you, the brand, really know your customer. Like you know it not at a segment level, you break it down to the persona. And I'll pass it over to you, Misha, on why persona prompting is super important,
100%. Yeah. So with the persona prompting is probably, well, actually, I'll take it a step back.
Yeah.
What generally happens, right? Like we as individuals search for things in different ways, right? We have different level of knowledge of the industry. We have personal interests, like it is ultimately what makes all of us unique, right? And ultimately customer data that you have or the companies have, right, is probably the best proprietary data that they can leverage to their advantage, right? One thing that we always recommend, right? So, different generations use different tools differently, right? I actually had a really good session the other day with Sherpa, who's one that lectures on AI marketing at Auckland Uni. And actually, what I said, I always had this assumption that maybe like the younger generations are using this technology is more effective. And we actually had a really great conversation. 100% recommend to anyone who's interested in that space to also connect to her and understand the younger populace. But what you said is it's actually not true. You'd think that the Gen Zs would be, long querying, typing the detailed information. So, like myself, Derek, or you, maybe Justin would do like, if we want to buy a shoe, we search for like, hey, I'm size such and such. I weigh this much. I'm a front toe runner. These are the cars that I like, and I live in Auckland, right? Like quite detailed, long tail. Apparently, that's not how it's happening, right? What they're doing is just a very simple short tail prompt, and trusting things at the face value. Right. So the thing is about that is, how well do you understand your customer and how do you know what they're searching for and how they're searching for it, right? Once you do that, tracking and understanding the behavior or how LLM surfaces your product or your brand or your business services becomes a whole lot more valid, right? Because now all of a sudden you have a direction. And this is what exactly what we try to do with AuraScope, right? So like prompting is going to be essentially everything, right? And they can sit around various topics and give you the results. But at the end of the day, knowing your customer, knowing how they behave, like knowing how they search is crucial, right? Yeah. We actually the other day I was actually thinking like, damn, you know what? There's massive opportunity for someone out there to literally just research like how people prompt, how people query these models. Like stand on the street and just get like, hey, who you are, what your age, what you do. If you were to search for things like how would you do it, and literally type down that thing.
And you'll be the first doing those studies. But I think like the way that we approach the new internet, and Justin, you put this perfectly, but you actually only touched the later parts of this the stack that we believe. Like great content is important, but it's not enough on its own. What we simply mean, how to really be AI visible comes down to number one, do you have the website architecture AI readable? Right? Like we're talking about like we hated bots before, but are you actually treating a bot as your first class citizen? And my belief and Misha's belief, I don't want to speak on behalf of yourself, but I know from my belief that AI is more valuable than a human when it reads my content, like personally. So, and what I mean by that is if I put out content or I put out a podcast and I only get 2 views, no one cares about my podcast on YouTube, I'm actually very happy because you know why? Let AI index it after one week, and now when people search about me, it pulls that information on what I spoke in that podcast. It pulls that information on what I did in my blog post. But in order to do that, you must have the website readable and indexable. Otherwise, your content is stuck behind a wall. Like, what is your analogy, Misha? Like your library analogy?
The library analogy. You can have all the great content in the world, but at the end of the day, you need the infrastructure or you need a way to navigate it, right? So if you don't have that technical layer sorted out, it's almost like turning up at the library and they're telling you like, hey, we've got all the great content, but all the books are just pretty much like piled up in one big, one massive pile, right? It tells you like, we've got great content, but good luck finding it, right? AI is spoiled. They want quick results. They've got real limited budget on finding things. Your goal is to ensure that this content, this information is easily discoverable and surfaceable.
So, any thoughts, Justin?
Yeah, I want to. We've got 10, 15 minutes left. I want to show people how you bring this to life, right?
Okay. I'll share my screen and I'm going to then let Misha take over.
Fantastic.
Cool. So how we solve this is we built a platform that helps you understand this and gives you the recommendations for it. I put in Deloitte just so, you know, it's a massive New Zealand AI agency. We'll just see how they show up, right? And even the greats that we think are, you know, dominating the consultancy market still have a lot to do in terms of their visibility on based on our website. And that's what we're showing here, right? So Misha, take it over and I'll drive for you.
Yeah, 100%. So I'll be really quick with it and cover mainly the essentials. So one of the things that we're really trying to give brands or the companies like an understanding of is like how visible are they, right? So, and the visibility is ultimately comprised of three key things, right? Is what's your citation rate, what's your mention rate, and what's your share of voice. So the share of voice is critical, right? So think of it as a real estate when the answer gets presented to your customer, right? So it's how much of that real estate do you actually own? The alternative to the SEO would be, how do you rank number one on GPT? The only thing is there's no such thing as ranking number one on GPT. It's a probabilistic system. Anybody tells you like, hey, we can get you ranking number one on GPT, I'm happy to.
Don't believe him.
Yeah, happy for you to use my name and say like, oh, this guy called you bullshit. But that's the thing, right? So the aggregate of this information gives you the overall visibility, right? Now, the real cool thing that we also do, all right, because for us the visibility is table stakes, is also give you a bit of an understanding of where the sources of information are actually coming from. So, like for example, in the case of Deloitte, you can see which are the top domains that are actually being used to generate the responses on the prompts that we monitor, right? And also present you with the overall brand aura. So what we focus on as well is the 5 key pillars of what it takes to make your site visible and citable, right? So some of the things are actually like relatively easy, right? So it's, you know, things like content freshness, like how recent is your content, right? The page structure. So that's your way of structuring your page using the best SEO practices. The readable markups are all your skeleton bits and pieces that actually enable the AI to extract information with ease. The third-party authority. So that's actually the crucial one. That's probably one of the bigger ones when it comes to actually earning that real estate or like the share of voice, right? So that's your earned media, right? I guess in traditional SEO ways, it's backlink. Like what's your backlinking strategy, right? But in a way that is, you know, also conversational, like, right? How conversational is your content? But when we distill it down to a bit more detail, we always link these 5 key pillars to our recommendations. So we believe that visibility is table stakes, right? There's plenty of platforms. As a matter of fact, you can try to do the visibility yourself, as Derek mentioned, like at the beginning of this webinar. Go for it. But I can tell you right now, we've tried doing that initially ages ago, and it takes forever. You need to accumulate the data, you need to store the data, you need to compare it, and you need to do a whole lot of things, right? So if you got time, go for it. But otherwise, this is essentially what we're trying to do here, right? Is we aggregate this information, we'll give you the visibility, and then based on our research and based on the prompts that you try to monitor and get a better understanding of your customer on, you know, in those particular domains, we give you the recommendations, right? So it's a strategic way of, you know, how do you best spend your time in the next, you know, month, 2, 3, and how do you grow your brand search, right? So instead of aimless wander, it's more strategic. So this is essentially what AuraScope does, right? It provides you with a strategy on how to move forward, on how to get a better visibility and pretty much get an early advantage on your competitors. In a nutshell, what it is. But Derek,
I want to add just something, because I remember when we first chatted with you, Justin, you were like, guys, why are you entering such a competitive market? Like, there's so many tools out here. Why are you doing this? Right? And then I think what we said very clearly to you, Justin, is no one's doing it well. Everyone is out here, and the dashboard that you see here is what they charge you. So like you can go into your performance, you can maybe go in and see a particular answer, and then maybe like some other platforms will actually give you the answer and the citations, which is what we do here. But Misha said this is table stakes. And every customer that we deal with every time says, okay, what do I do with this? And I have not seen a platform out there that has as much of a research-backed recommendation system as ours. And maybe that's a delusion.
So I mean,
but
so
yeah.
what we're saying is, it's all fine to see how do we show up and what are people, what are the questions people, or what are the results that have been generated about us.
Yes.
But the next thing is going, so what content should we be creating to increase our usefulness and value to the AI tools generating content, right? Because if our site is seen as an authority on a topic that's able to, for those AI systems, those large language models, to more easily generate a high quality response to a query from our content, we're more likely to show up. Is that
correct?
And not just to reiterate, not just the content, but the technical architecture is crucial as well.
Yes.
All the schemas and everything, right? Because I love the topic of what we were talking about at the beginning. You know, the websites are going to fundamentally change. I honestly see as like, you know, that's the evolution of Web 3.0 development, right? Decentralized internet, and that's a key thing, right? So the one thing, if you were to ask me like, why do we need to focus on right now? The foundational data layer is crucial, right? Make sure that your house is in order, and by house, I don't just mean that, you know, what's happening in internally, but just the website. You know, how structured is your website? How organized? How scrapable?
But it's the infrastructure layer, right?
Yeah. That's number one.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll be sharing this out with everyone afterwards as well. If there's anyone on this call or anyone who watches this afterwards, how do they get their hands on AuraScope? What should they do to get a demo, to see it in action? What's the next step?
Yeah, Justin, we're right now founder led. So you'll speak directly with us, the founders that have spent a lot of their blood, sweat, and tears into this. What we think of it, we'll actually run your website in the demo, and we'll give you exactly the data that you need to just give you an insight into the space, right? Because we understand there'll be varying different levels. You're either a marketer or an agency that needs to get this sorted for your customers, and you want those recommendations that you can, build for them, or you're just someone that is really trying to come to the space new and you want to understand what is an important thing. So what you do is you go to our website and you book a demo with us, and we'll do that for you, right? Did I miss anything, Misha?
The website is aurascope.co.
Yeah. That is the website.
Awesome. This has been incredibly riveting. I love it. I love the work that you guys are doing. I love the thinking that goes in behind it. And you're damn right. When you first mentioned it to me, I was like, whew, jeepers, boys. But the way that you understand what that problem is, and being able to look at what's the long-term solution there to actually help people move those metrics is really insightful and is really useful. So that's why I wanted to showcase what you're doing in this toolkit session, because I think it's a really fresh and darn useful approach. So well done, guys. Thank you for coming in and talking to me this morning and sharing your knowledge and expertise and your product with everyone on the session. And we'll get it out for everyone. If you've got any questions, get in touch with Misha or Derrick, and make sure you join us same bat channel next week for a deep dive into Perplexity Computer. and I'll be able to give you a walk round of what that looks like, because pretty darn cool. So yeah, thanks so much, everyone. I really appreciate it.
Love it. Thank you so much for having us, Justin, and thank you so much for those who attended.
Thank you, team.
Have a great weekend, Appreciate it.
Cheers.